It's 6 in the morning. Outside, the sky is still dark, and the streetlights are still lit. In an open-plan American kitchen, the stove turns on, a few slices of bacon hit the pan, and that familiar sound begins, a gentle sizzle. Moments later, an aroma spreads to every corner of the house, enough to wake a family even before the sun comes up. The year is 1955. Refrigerator doors are clicking shut in almost every home. Yet the most important sounds of the morning remain unchanged. The hot oil in the skillet, the hum of the kitchen radio, a glass setting down on the table. That morning tells us far more than it seems: how a nation changed, how it grew, and why the kitchen became the heart of the home. Today, we take you back to a morning in 1955. The coffee is brewing, the toast is popping, and the spirit of mid-century America is hidden in every single bite.
1955 was a strange moment of balance for America. The war years were behind them, the economy was booming, and families were moving into brand-new suburban neighborhoods. Kitchens were getting their share of this transformation too. According to researchers, by the early 1950s, refrigerator ownership had reached nearly 90% of American households, a figure almost unheard of just a few decades earlier. Home freezers, on the other hand, were only beginning to spread, present in about 12% of homes at the start of the decade, but growing rapidly. This technical shift deeply reshaped the breakfast table. Families no longer needed to buy their food fresh every single day. Milk, eggs, butter, everything could wait in the fridge for days. Yet this didn't mean old habits vanished overnight. In many neighborhoods, the milkman still went door to door in the early morning, dropping off glass bottles and collecting the empties. Historians note that home milk delivery began to decline toward the late 1950s, but right in the middle of the decade, in 1955, it was still an everyday fixture on many American streets. Some houses even had a small, insulated milk box right by the door. The milkman would leave the bottles inside, and the family would leave the payment in that very same box. So, a morning in 1955 was a moment where two worlds met. On one side, the convenience of the modern refrigerator. On the other, the final years of a delivery tradition born in the era of horse-drawn carts.
Around 6:30 in the morning, the kitchen light was the first to turn on in most American homes. The mother was usually the earliest riser in the family. While dad prepared for work and the kids got ready for school, the breakfast table was the day's most important gathering point. Family Circle, one of the popular women's magazines of the time, published an article in its September 1955 issue titled "Break the Breakfast Monotony," suggesting 4 different breakfast menus to homemakers. One menu paired mixed, stewed fruits, eggs served with pork roll, cinnamon buns, and lemon tea, while another included baked apples, French toast, marmalade, and sausage. The magazine's advice was simple: make the first meal of the day matter, serve something you haven't had in a long time, or give an old favorite a new twist. These lines showed just how much care and meaning was attached to breakfast back then. But the truth is, of course, not every morning was quite so elaborate. On a typical weekday morning, the most common pairing was eggs and bacon. Historians point out that aggressive advertising campaigns by meat and egg producers played a huge role in making this duo nearly iconic on the American breakfast table. What went on the morning toast was changing too. Due to butter rationing during World War II, margarine had gained massive popularity, and by the mid-1950s, margarine sales were almost catching up to butter. So, in many homes, the bread came to the table spread with margarine, served alongside a few slices of bacon and eggs. Another fixture of the breakfast table was orange juice, but not from a carton or bottle as we know it today. It was prepared from frozen concentrate. According to the archives of the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History, frozen orange juice concentrate was actually developed during World War II to supply soldiers with vitamin C. The lemon crystals given to troops until then tasted so terrible that most soldiers wouldn't even touch them. After the war, this technology was adapted for the civilian market, giving birth to brands like Maid. Many American families would put the small metal can of frozen concentrate in the fridge overnight, mix it with water in the morning, and have a glass of orange juice that seemed fresh in just a few minutes. It was both practical and a true symbol of the era's modern kitchen. On weekends, however, the story changed a bit. On Saturday or Sunday mornings, families could take the time for a longer, richer breakfast. Pancakes, cereal, or even homemade cinnamon rolls would grace the table. Historians referred to this period as the golden age of the American cereal industry. Companies like Kellogg's, Post, and General Mills were locked in a fierce battle on grocery shelves. In 1954, General Mills introduced the fruit-flavored Trix, one of the first of its kind. In 1955, Kellogg's launched Special K, which quickly found its way onto restaurant breakfast menus under the name Quick K, alongside toast and coffee. For children, cereal was a fast option they could prepare all by themselves. Researchers note that this offered a practical solution during a time when women were entering the workforce in greater numbers. A box of cereal and cold milk became the very first meal a child could make on their own.
Interestingly, 1955 was a turning point not just at the breakfast table, but in breakfast culture itself. That year, the very first Waffle House restaurant opened its doors in Georgia, the beginning of a chain that lives on today as a true Southern breakfast tradition. Of course, not every home's table looked the same. For some families, breakfast was still nothing more than a simple glass of milk and a slice of bread. In certain regions, local favorites like warm oatmeal or cornmeal grits were preferred. Historians emphasize that morning habits varied significantly based on both income levels and regional traditions. So when we speak of a typical 1955 breakfast, we are actually gathering many different realities under one roof. The kitchen itself was like a stage. Formica countertops, pastel-colored refrigerators, tables covered with floral tablecloths, all reflected the optimism of post-war America. The radio was usually playing. Television wasn't in every home yet, but it was spreading fast. As Dad read his newspaper, Mom flipped the eggs in the pan, and the kids packed their school bags. That kitchen became the single quiet moment where the family came together before taking on the rest of the day. Looking back today, the breakfast table of 1955 tells us far more than just stories of eggs, bacon, or a simple glass of orange juice. That table was a moment when a family started the day together, taking a few precious minutes for one another, even in a rush. Today, many of us spend our mornings on the go, holding a paper cup of coffee. Perhaps that is why the modest, shared tables of that era feel so warm to us now. The milkman knocking on the door, the sizzle of bacon in the pan, taking the frozen orange juice out of the fridge, all of these were tiny rituals that now live mostly in our memories. Perhaps the best thing we can do today is to remember the spirit of those mornings, not rushing through, but sitting down together, starting the day by sharing it. Because sometimes the most cherished memories are hidden at the simplest tables.